Hi, it's Neil here. Before we start today's show, I wanted to let you know that I've teamed up with my friends at HireEct this month. And HireEct is the first chat-based hiring app for startups. And what I love about HireEct is it takes everyone away from the dreaded email inbox and waiting around for responses. Think of it like WhatsApp for recruiting. And the HireEct app brings together recruiters and job seekers so they can directly connect with each other. And this allows recruiters and job seekers to communicate more and receive quick feedback. And the HireEct app also uses advanced technology to efficiently map job seekers and recruiters, all based on their preferences and behaviour. So you can improve your chances of reaching inbox zero, accelerate your hiring process 10 times faster than those traditional ways, all by chatting and interviewing candidates anytime, anywhere, on any device. So I invite you all to download the HireEct app for free from the Apple App Store and Google Play Store. That's HireEct, spelled H-I-R-E-C-T. Give it a try, let me know what you think. But on with today's show.
Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast. It's fall, y'all. As some of our friends in the US might say. Apologies for my bad accent there. But once again, it's time to explore areas of technology you might not always think about. And for example, I recently read that 61% of organisations don't hold full awareness of their certificates and all their security keys across their digital assets. And today I want to explore the world of machine identity and why machine identity management is actually critical for today's enterprises. So I may have left that world of IT behind, but hey, it never leaves you. It's that IT blood is still running through these veins. And AppViewX and Vanson Bourne recently released a report called the Next Gen Machine Identity Management Report, and that explored where the current machine identity market stands and what are the current challenges and opportunities for organisations today, and what has been the true impact of suboptimal digital identity management. We have got a lot to get through, so I've invited a guest on today to talk about all this and much more. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to Dallas, Texas, where I will introduce you to today's guest. A massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
My name is Murali Palanisamy, shortly called Murali. A little about myself. I started my career in financial services primarily with all the banks and both the retail and wealth management side of both retail and the commercial banks as well. And I've been primarily focusing on technology ever since. What I do now is I look at customers' problems and work with my engineering and product management team to identify solutions. As my title says, I'm the Chief Solutions Officer. I provide solutions. And I provide solutions in the area primarily focused on machine identity and automation support.
And a question I always like to ask my guests is what is your origin story? Where did your passion for technology come from? And what was it that put you on this path today? If you were to look back, does anything stand out to you?
The origin started in providing solutions as well. This was way back in 2002, where internally there were some requirement and basically to solve that, I just wrote a set of Perl script-based software. It all started with a custom-built software with Perl script to solve a problem internally way back. And, since then I moved, I got promoted and moved to different roles and all that, but that support to that software continued where I was supporting it all the way through. Even after getting promoted as an senior vice president, I was still, all the issues with the software came to us. And this is a challenge with any in-house software that is built in an organization. That's when I thought, it's better to find a vendor-supported solution So I started talking to our vendors, asking for development services to help replace that software. There weren't any. That's when I reached out to Anand to basically give him the requirements and asked him to help us solve this problem. And that's how the whole thing started. And as I said, it all starts with solving a problem, right? And there was a problem, and here is the solution.
And that path obviously led you to AppViewX, which essentially allows businesses to automate and orchestrate certificates and keys in the cloud, the edge, and everywhere in between. But for people listening and hearing about AppViewX for the very first time, can you tell me a little bit more about it and the kind of services that you provide and problems that you solve?
AppViewX, as the name sounds, it provides application perspective view. And X is mathematical X. X can be everything, right? Anything and everything. So the X that we focus on right now is machine identity management, right? Automating machine identity management and bringing and providing that application perspective view. And there is another product which is application delivery automation, right? So there are two main areas, which is machine identity management and application delivery automation. And both of them provides an app perspective view, and both of them focus on automation. And that's primarily what we offer.
And just to set the scene, can you expand on what machine identity management is and why machine identity management is so important right now? Because it's a phrase I'm hearing more and more, and I suspect a lot of people outside the tech industry might not be too familiar with. So can you just set the scene on that?
Just like human identities, right? So we have either a driver's license or passport or various IDs to identify human beings. Similarly, machines have identities too, right? And machines are all over, right? It could be wearables, it could be your car, it could be your machine in your house. Any of them have an identity. And those identities are in terms of keys and certificates, right? And they use that identity when they communicate with other machines or even a way to communicate and authenticate to humans. Now, why it is important today? There is a huge increase in number of machines that are connected to the network. We would have never thought our car could be connected on the internet and talk to us, or even a refrigerator could be connected and order milk when it is needed. And we are in that world today where the machines are connected, the world is connected. And to identify and secure those machines, we need a way to manage that identity, govern that identity, and have some policies for this identity.
And one of the questions I was going to ask there is, can you expand on the kind of role that machine identity plays in protecting an organization too?
Well, just like how, an identity, human identity is verified to control access to an organization, machine identity is very important to protect the organization's data, right? And pretty much every data that is used or stored gets communicated between machines, right? And to communicate, during that communication, the machine identity used as an anchor or a foundation of trust. Now, unless you have a pretty good or central governance or central way of managing those identities, protecting data becomes a challenge. You've heard about so many breaches, so many data breaches, millions of records or user records or personal records exposed. All of them have some underlying root in an exposed machine identity or an exploited machine identity.
And before you came on the podcast today, I read that you recently released a survey with, I think it was Vanson, Bourne, entitled The Next Gen Machine Identity Management Report. And for anyone that's not seen that report, can you tell the listeners about some of the surprise findings in there?
It was astonishing to find that 96%, which is pretty much every organization, has faced some consequence or the other because of machine identity or because they haven't implemented machine identity management. And that's an astounding number. And not only that, they have also clearly shared that 99%, which is pretty much everyone, are doing something to implement some way, shape, or form and process for machine identity management, which is a huge change. This is like every organization is looking at this as a problem and are looking at addressing that particular problem.
And the scale of the problem is staggering, like you just said. And I'm curious, why do you think that, another stat from the report here, I mean, why do you think more than 61% of enterprises currently lack full awareness of all their digital certificates and keys? Is it because they're spinning too many plates, or why do you think that is?
Yeah, I think it's a matter of time, right? See, it was the same with human identities. Pre 9/11, I'm not sure how many of you remember, pre 9/11, driver's license was a laminated piece of paper, right? And, the different states issued different identities and all that, right? And when there was a major shift or a major event, that is when the government realized that we need to have some real ID. And that's where now you see real IDs coming in for air travel and all that getting enforced, where human identities are becoming a lot more stricter with smart chips and a whole bunch of other capabilities and all that. The same exact scenario with machine identities and organizations. It's just that with all the COVID and cloud and COVID, there is a shift in how people look at security. And now there is a huge focus on how we can secure. And that's where I think the whole idea of having that central awareness and central visibility is coming in.
And of course, we are approaching that time of year where everyone's starting to think about what's going to happen in 2022, how to prepare for that, how to hit the ground running in the new year. So what's on your radar for 2022, especially as it relates to machine identity management? How do you expect machine identity management to change in the next 12 months?
See, this is a time when, there are two tectonic changes in the industry, right? In my opinion, the cloud has made the data center disappear, the private data centers disappear. And that's been happening over a period of time, right? And people moving to the cloud and all this fun stuff. Then COVID has made the retail office space disappear. Right? People used to go to office and there was a retail perimeter that was there. And that has disappeared. Now we are in this perimeterless world. And one of the key aspects is that now identity has become the perimeter. Irrespective of where they are, where they sit, where they are from, now that identity becomes the perimeter, which basically interconnects the world. That is where machine identity becomes the forefront. My experience, or what I have seen, is that 2022 is going to be the year where there is a tectonic shift or a shift towards machine identities and human identities, the way they are looked at. Now, with cloud, there is multi-cloud deployment model, right? A hybrid, a multi-cloud deployment model getting more traction, which means that the workloads can be in any cloud for the same application. Now, you need to think about how to secure those across multiple clouds. But at the same time, on the retail side or the office space side, there is a hybrid working model emerging. So there is a hybrid, cloud model, and there is a hybrid working model emerging, where you go to office once a week or once a month or 3 days a month, and people are talking about it, where they can work from anywhere. Now, that also requires that identity. That also requires if your laptop breaks down in the middle of nowhere, right? You cannot drive to your office and get a new laptop, right? You'll have to figure out how to bring your own device, how to securely onboard that device, how to securely identify the device, right? And that in all of that, there is machine identity. So I feel strongly that there's going to be a huge shift and huge change in terms of machine identity. Not only that, right? Now we have the cars, we have the wearables, we have the the blood pressure monitors. Every one of those are changing. And with COVID, there is another renewed attention to healthcare, and health, personal health. With all the wearables coming in, right? There's going to be a lot more focus in there, and every one of that has confidential data that needs to be secured, that needs to be identified, that needs to be managed. In all of that is machine identity.
And as we continue to look at the road ahead and someone that's working right in the heart of this space, are there any tech trends that you're seeing that particularly excite you about the future?
One of the trends that I'm really excited about is the zero trust security or zero trust architecture. Why I believe that excites me, or why I see that as an exciting area, is that sort of suits to the disruptions that are happening, whatever I just spoke about, right? Zero trust architecture sort of is bang in the middle of how you can secure in a completely perimeterless world. But in those days, right, or in the previous times, when there was a perimeter, depending on where the machine was located, it was given a level of security. If it was in the DMZ, if it was in the internal network, it was in the secure network, it got certain privileges, certain access controls, right, certain services available to it because of the physical location of where it was within the data center. But now, in the perimeterless world, pretty much everyone is treated equal, meaning everyone has the same set of authentication that they have to go through to consume any service. So, and that is an interesting shift or interesting trend that is going to change the perception, change the way things are done.
I love that. And so much I've learned today about machine identity. And I've loved more than anything hearing about your story behind that. And as we reach full circle here, we began talking about your origin story. I'm now going to ask you, what was the soundtrack to your journey in technology in your career? Is there a particular song that helps you get your head in the zone, or just inspires you, or reminds you of your career? Do you have a song and story you can share with us? And I'll add it on our Spotify playlist.
The song that always inspired me was sung way, way back before I was born. This is by a classic by Louis Armstrong, "What a Wonderful World."
Love it.
Whenever I'm stressed or when I want to get out of the zone, I just listen to that song. It is amazing. Whatever he talks about alludes to in that song, like the trees and the sky and the clouds and all that. None of that has changed, but yet so much has changed.
Yeah.
And especially the last part where he talks about the babies cry and they learn much more than I'll ever know. That's an amazing line that, I was born after that song, and, I have a 2-year-old, and when I see her, she learns much more than I will ever know. And it's so relevant and it's so inspiring. I think if you listen to the song, you'll know what I mean.
I completely agree with you. An absolute timeless classic. And I would urge anyone that's not heard of it before, for the younger listeners, is to switch off the TV and put their devices down, go for a walk and listen to that song. Because like you said, so much has changed and been transformed by technology, and yet so much is exactly the same, and for the right reasons too. So I'll add that to our playlist. Thank you so much for sharing that. And before I let you go though, for anyone listening wanting to find out more information about AppViewX or the report that we mentioned, or contact your team, what's the best starting point for that?
Yeah, so they can look up www.appviewx.com, or they can reach to me or my team at info.appviewx.com. If they want to reach out to me, I have a pretty interesting name, so I don't think there is anybody there. So if they can Google the full name, they can find my LinkedIn profile.
I'll add those links to the blog post that will accompany this episode so people can find you nice and easy. But thank you so much for sharing your insights about machine identity and that report there and how it's arming IT and security teams with the data that they need to effectively communicate the pathways towards successful digital certification management and, of course, sustainable growth of their IT infrastructure. But more than anything, thank you for coming on and sharing your story and that great tune too. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thanks, Neil, and stay safe.
So the new AppViewX research revealed that more than 60% of organisations lack awareness of certificates and keys across their digital assets. And of those lacking certificate and key awareness, 96% have experienced negative consequences, underscoring the importance of a comprehensive machine identity management process. And I say process really as a mission-critical business strategy. But I'd love to hear your thoughts, insights, experiences around this. I'm sure there's a few war stories that you all have out there, and I'd love to hear them. So please email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com. My website is techblogwriter.co.uk. Keep those messages coming in, and I'll return again tomorrow. We'll tackle another topic that we don't associate with technology and try and share a few problems and solutions, and hopefully we can all learn a few things together. So a big thank you for listening as always, and until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.